Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And boy, do we have a lot to cover this morning. Of course, Kamala Harris's concession speech yesterday, making it all official. Donald Trump, of course, we went on the air yesterday with the official announcement from the AP and CNN and elsewhere declaring that Donald Trump was president-elect, waiting patiently for Harris's concession speech yesterday, showing up a little late. I had a couple comments from viewers on that. Yes, about a half an hour late, but it was a good enough speech. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Did you happen to catch Governor Hochul's press conference with Letitia James, which is being described as bizarre and odd, and maybe not setting up New York in the best position with a new president? We'll be talking about that as well. A couple local issues. First, let's go to some viewer comments after the program yesterday. Thank you always for the viewer comments. If you are new to the program, you see that number on the bottom of your screen. You can reach out at any time. And I actually was talking to someone the other day, and I meant to mention it. Yes, that little hand is how many waves we get during a program. And it originally started as so many people walk by our studio here on Marcus Street. It started as in-person waves, and we thought, wait a minute, they should be home watching Frankly Speaking. So now it is mostly emoji waves that people send in. So there's your answer if you are new to the program. All right, comment from a viewer. You know, Frank, it just occurred to me that Kamala did not pick the guy from PA because he turned her down in order to preserve his position as governor. There has been a lot of speculation on that, and that's a very good point that you make because Josh Shapiro is an up-and-coming star in the Democrat Party. So there was talks at the time that he perhaps turned her down. There was the two thoughts. One, that she did not pick him because of his being Jewish, and the reason is because, as Van Jones said, there is that marbling in the Democrat Party of anti-Semitism. And he said that at the time that Josh Shapiro wasn't picked, because it really did blow a lot of people's minds that everybody knew you needed Pennsylvania to win. Now, it turns out in the long run, Trump did win every swing state. So maybe not necessarily as important as once thought, but it was very important, Pennsylvania, of course. So that was the one thought on the matter. But the other was that he perhaps turned her down because, remember, the media was even saying that Kamala Harris was a bad VP pick at the time, that perhaps dropping her off the ticket would improve Biden's chances. We all know that no one really hid the fact that she wasn't a strong candidate, wasn't a strong VP. So Josh Shapiro may be thinking at the time, all right, she's in there. If she doesn't win, it's 4 years of Trump. Trump only has 4 years. And by the time the 4 years is over, which is a blink of an eye, not just in the political world, but just in general, blink of the eye, 4 years goes by, and he would be a front runner, if not the front runner, in the presidential race. So perhaps he turned it down. So very astute point from that viewer. Thank you very much. Another comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. Does the rest of your audience think like I do that Proposition 1 was deceitful? It did not have everything listed on the ballot. Is that true? Politics at its true best? Yes, you are exactly right. So if you recall, we had former Congressman Joe Sempolinski, who now is Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski after his victory on Tuesday. But he was on the program last week. And we talked about, if you recall, it was actually going to be even more misleading until there was pushback, and they changed it a little bit. Yeah, so, and this is why we try to talk about it so often on the program, just to get that information out there. And it did become kind of wonky. But when you looked at the actual proposition, and for those that are wondering what we're talking about, it was an amendment to the New York State Constitution. If you look at the actual proposition, very different from what was actually on your ballot. So I think that's one of the reasons why it was so successful. Now, Republicans, of course, were pushing hard for no, but it did pass. And I think one of the reasons is if you did not know what was actually in it, who's going to vote to say that they want to discriminate? So, yes, it was politics at its worst. It really was. You even had, we had a guest, a Democrat on the program, saying don't vote for Prop 1. It's not just Republicans, but there were a lot of people saying it was misleading. That for something that is supposed to codify abortion in New York State, it never once mentioned abortion. So yeah, I can't agree more that it was really politics at its at its best. I know what you're saying, but another way to look at it is politics at its worst. We have a statement here to go local here before we go to the national scene. Our good friend Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Now he ran unopposed. So waiting a day to release his statement on obviously being victorious, wanting, of course, those that were in competitive races to release their statements and not get lost in all of the news of the day. So Assemblyman Phil Palmisano had this statement to the voters. I can't begin to emphasize strongly enough what a privilege it is, how very humbled I am to serve as the representative for the people of the 132nd Assembly District. I promise to honor the trust and confidence you have continued to place in me by working so very hard to make sure your voice is heard in Albany. Thank you so very much, and God bless you. That's Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for all of you that voted for him. He did run unopposed, but I thank the Assemblyman for sending us that statement. Okay, so Trump did win Arizona, meaning he had a complete swing state sweep. The Republican leads Vice President Kamala Harris 52.1% to 47%. And that's with 67% of the votes counted, according to the Associated Press. Trump's victory in Arizona, with its 11 electoral votes, follows that in neighboring Nevada, where he picked up 6. A feat no Republican has completed in, get this, 20 years. Yes, the numbers as of this morning, as Nevada and Arizona are still not officially, he won Arizona and Nevada, but they still have not officially declared it because there are so many extra votes to count. But as of right now, in the Electoral College, all Trump needed, or Harris needed, was 270 Electoral College votes. Trump stands at 295 as of this morning to Harris's 226. And undoubtedly, because we have so many people that in this audience who watch politics and pay attention to the news, such a well-informed viewership, you saw by now Jake Tapper's reaction when you look at the map and Harris failed to outperform Biden in a single state. His exact quote, which has now become a meme: "Holy smokes, literally nothing." Haven't heard "holy smokes" in quite some time. Literally not one county. John King from CNN pointed out that the slide showed states, not counties, before switching to another slide, which showed Harris outperforming Biden by 3% or more in a mere 58 counties throughout the whole country. So in counties, and 58 counties, we just showed Donald Trump was over 1,000 counties of the 4,600 counties and townships across America. So if you look at these numbers, it is essentially a landslide at 295 electoral votes, with Arizona and Nevada not officially in that category yet, and the popular vote. Now, so many people have highlighted that, yes, the popular vote at the end of the day doesn't matter, right? That's not the way you play the game. It would be, if you want to depend on the popular vote after the election, that would be like playing a football game and at the end saying we're changing the score because now field goals are counting as 7. That's why it's so frustrating and the media started doing this early in the night, because they just assume now that the Democrat is going to win the popular vote, because it's been since 2004 since a Republican won the popular vote, that of course George W. Bush. So they started the conversation early that we've got to get rid of the Electoral College. This isn't fair. And if you look at that map, what that means is if we get rid of the Electoral College, the candidates will not care, essentially, about rural communities, will not care about the Rust Belt and various needs throughout the country. It'll just be the needs of New York City and California and the larger cities. But none of that matters, because there's not as much call for the end of the Electoral College now that President Trump won the popular vote. So that is a small victory in one way, because that's not how you play the game. But at the end of the day, it's a very large victory just to keep that conversation away and to show the strength of President-elect Donald Trump coming in with not just the Electoral College win, not just the popular vote, but also what we know the Senate is in Republican hands, and it's looking good for Republicans in the House. And we're going to talk about that in a moment when we come back from break. But I wanted to give you one last update. And there's other updates, but one that I know many people in this audience are watching closely because of our neighbors tuning in Pennsylvania. Dave McCormick, as it stands this morning, the race in Pennsylvania is too close to call. The Republican Dave McCormick leads at 48.9%. But listen to this, when people say your vote doesn't count. Bob Casey, the Democrat, is at 48.5%. So again, 48.9% to 48.5%. This is going to be most likely a long, drawn out vote. This is so close that I'm sure there'll be, and I'm not positive, but I would predict that there'll be a recount, and this could take a while to find out if Dave McCormick stays on top over Bob Casey. That's a very important Senate race. So there we go for our neighbors to the south in Pennsylvania. When we come back, we'll tell you about some other races going on. Still waiting to hear some that haven't conceded. Of course, the big talk of the day, as it goes without saying, President-elect Donald Trump, Kamala Harris conceding. We did get no early this morning. It may have broke late last night that Biden will address the nation this morning at 11 a.m. But I also want to, and I ask you if you saw the bizarre, and I think that's a fair term to use, the bizarre press conference with Governor Hochul. Man, she is trying to be a national star. And New York just didn't do good enough for Democrats, especially when you look at the presidential race, to consider her a power player. You know, Nancy Pelosi calling out Governor Hochul after the 2022 midterms. And so Hochul wants to be back in she wants to get the attention that former Governor Cuomo got, essentially. So they give her a speaking time slot during the DNC, and she did very poorly. And that was coming from Democrats and Republicans. And this should have been bigger news after Biden called Trump supporters garbage. Now think of that this morning. Think of that with the numbers that we're seeing across the country, that amount of people, the popular vote, more than half the country is garbage. Then you had Mark Cuban saying that Trump didn't have strong, intelligent women around him. And so that was making the media rounds. And Governor Hochul should have made the rounds, but I think she's such a non-entity that it didn't make the national news specifically. And that was that she called people that vote for Republicans anti-American and anti-women. So that is Governor Hochul now, again, trying to be in the limelight, trying to be former Governor Andrew Cuomo giving a bizarre press conference yesterday. We're going to talk about that as well, but we need to take our first break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Attention, Elmaron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmaron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmaron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmaron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
I'm Marianne Kurt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
It's chilling, it's haunting.
We knew exactly who it was.
Blood stains on her shorts.
See you in September.
Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Now let's take a look, and as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. I'm sorry, I had so many comments coming in. I sometimes get distracted. Keep them coming in, if you don't mind. Let's go to the first comment from Ken in Horseheads. Ken says, during Harris's concession speech, she said to mobilize and included the word fight at least 20 times. It sounded like she was suggesting that people take to the streets and violently protest. If that was Donald Trump's concession speech, yes. That's what they would say. The fight, which I always thought was after 2 assassination attempts on former President Trump's and now President-elect Trump's life, I always thought it was inappropriate that their mantra included the word fight. When we fight, we win. And I just thought that was the rhetoric that's being used, the not so subtle rhetoric, I thought was inappropriate. But that was kind of, like I said, the mantra that they ran on. So I think that's what the reference was to, Ken. I know that's what they were using to reference and why she said fight so often. Let's go to a different comment. Because Prop 1 was not presented on the ballot in its entirety and was deceptively worded, can it be challenged in the courts in order to have it thrown out? That's a great question. Someone asked that yesterday on the program, and what I think the best avenue to go down is, because we've got experts on this program so often about it. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to speculate. So we'll ask Assemblyman-elect Joe Sempolinski next time he's on the program, or the next time we have Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on the program, or Assemblyman Chris Friend. Obviously, we have so many guests during the Student Senior Services Fund section of our program, and this was me. I'll take full blame. You saw how many interviews we had during the election season, sometimes 2-3 a day. So my thought was, because everyone was saying how close the race was going to be, I did not book any guests for the rest of the week. We had senatorial candidate Mike Sapercone on the program on Monday, and Bobby Ann Cox to talk about Proposition 1. But after that, it was just you and I for the rest of the week. And now, in hindsight, it wasn't necessary because of the landslide. But of course, we had to be prepared, and it's not fair to a guest to come right in the middle of conversations with breaking news and really being a distraction. So next week we'll be back on track, and I will try to get someone on that can answer that question for you, because it's a great question. It was misleading. Proposition 1, it was very deceptive. And so we'll see if there is any court action that can take place. Next up, morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I think people are beginning to see the Democratic Party has its priorities wrong. Remember, this is the party that removed homeless veterans from a hotel and housed illegal aliens. Yes, there's also, and many people have said this, not just on this program, but I have op-ed after op-ed right here in my stack of papers saying that, listen, they were focused on this celebrity and this elitist. Did you see, well, okay, I'll jump ahead. If that's where you want to go, I'll jump ahead, and we'll get back to some of the other issues later on. But did you see Bernie Sanders and what he had to say about his own party? Senator Bernie Sanders unleashed a blistering takedown of the Democrat Party in the wake of its huge losses on Election Day. Quote, it should come as no surprise that a Democrat Party, which has abandoned working class people, would find that the working class has abandoned them. First, it was the white working class, and now it's Latino and black workers as well. While the Democrat leadership defends the status quo, the American people are angry and want change, and they're right. That's Bernie Sanders speaking to that viewer's point on priorities. He regurgitated his well-worn talking points about the rich doing phenomenally well amid tough economic conditions. But he added at the end of his tweet, "We continue to spend billions funding the extremist Netanyahu government's all-out war against the Palestinian people. Will the big money interests and well-paid consultants who control the Democrat Party learn any real lessons from this disastrous campaign?" That is a fair question to ask. I know they're saying there's a reckoning, for lack of a better word. There's a time. This happened very much after McCain's loss, and then maybe even more so after Romney's loss, where Republicans had to say, what are we doing wrong? I don't think the elites listened. And I think that's why it took the elitists to suggest it was Jeb Bush that could beat Hillary Clinton for the Republican Party to throw up their hands and say, okay, if you're not going to realign, if you're not going to look at our priorities, we are, and we're going to vote for Donald Trump, who's talking about the forgotten men and the forgotten women. So it was a kind of forced reckoning on the Republican elites. This will be interesting because I know the media is pushing the narrative that it's Biden's fault. He should have got out earlier and let there be a primary, or at least let Harris run a longer campaign. I wonder, though, if you're a Democrat and you see, wait a minute, the elitists let us vote for Bernie, but at the end of the day, the fix was in. It was going to be Hillary Clinton all along. And then the next go around, kind of similar. Bernie's still doing well, never going to get it, though, because of the way the elites moved, and Biden gets it. Okay, they win that time, so they're happy that their vote still didn't really matter. This time, they vote, 14 million people vote for Joe Biden, and they say, nah, we don't want Joe Biden anymore. It's going to be Harris. So to me, the problem wouldn't necessarily be, if I was looking at it from a Democrat's perspective, my problem wouldn't necessarily be that Biden didn't get out early enough. It would be, why didn't they let him run? Because I know the debate went disastrous, but that's one debate, and it was really early in the season. Now, yes, you can say he obviously hasn't improved on some of his speeches and things like that, but Harris didn't run a stellar campaign, and out of the two, one was proven to be able to beat, at least in Democrats' minds, Donald Trump. So will there be a pushback from the Democrat Party on the elitists? Somewhat, Bernie Sanders somewhat saying that, but will there be that, hey, enough of the elites in the party telling us what to do? Why don't you let us make that decision, like the system, how the system is supposed to work? So again, that's not a question I can answer, but right now I know the media is going in full blame mode. It's either Biden is to blame for not getting out early, or it's Tim Walz's fault. That's been a very big talking point. We're going to talk about that as well. But just one other thing on this. Well, there's a couple. I better take a break because there's a couple other things on this, and then we'll get back to some quote-unquote breaking news or some more other kind of numbers type stories, wonky stories. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now is the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost and lonely. I had snapped, I had a gun, and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still life to live for the better of myself, my family. My weapon is now safely put away.
My son, Ricky, took his life by the use of a firearm. It broke me in ways that I never knew that I could be broken. And I contemplated suicide. Afterwards, we found out his girlfriend, she was pregnant. If that was my grandson, I was gonna have to be here for him. I still own my firearm. I keep it in a safe because I want to keep my grandson and myself safe.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone.
Store your gun securely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo.
Football's newest show breaks down all things NFL. GMFB Overtime.
Check out top highlights, player interviews, special guests, and everything in between. 5 days a week.
GMFB Overtime. It's football for everyone.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
It's chilling, taunting.
We knew exactly who it was.
Blood stains on her shorts.
See you in September.
Thanks again to Boss Security for bringing us this beautiful view of historic Market Street. Boss Security in Horseheads, call them today for all your business and home security needs. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. And as I mentioned, we do not have lined up on the program this morning a Steuben Senior Services Fund interview. So it's just you and I. And speaking of you and I, here is a comment from a viewer. I'm glad the election results haven't caused an uprising. I really feel that there is unity in the air brewing. Thank God and country for the calm. I think it helps, and I've been kind of surprised, but again, I've stayed off of Facebook, but I know there hasn't been reported, and all social media in that instance, only because I genuinely understand when someone's candidate doesn't win, they're hurt and their anger, and seeing those raw emotions sometimes is not the prettiest. So I just thought it better to put that aside for the time being. And I know it's interesting to see people who are so happy as well, but we have that here on the program. We hear from you daily, so that's all I need. But I'm going to be interested to see because right now there is that shock for both sides, right? The shock of, wow, we won the Electoral College handily, and we won the popular vote and the Senate and maybe the House. So there's a shock from the Trump supporters, but there's also, of course, a shock from the Harris supporters who I think one of the reasons why, and I think there will be more outrage is what I'm trying to say, but I think one of the reasons there hasn't been yet is because they have to take a look and say, wow, this was not the good candidate. Why didn't we listen to our gut when she was picked? Because if you recall, it had been said for over 4 years that she was not a good candidate. That's why she was never considered to be the actual replacement for Biden when Biden were to run this time and in their mind win. So after that 4 years, she would have never been thought as, well, they would have had to put her in the mix, but she wouldn't have been running unopposed on the Democrat side. We'll put it that way. So I think a lot of Democrats were thinking, yes, we got excited because it wasn't Biden after Biden's disastrous debate performance, but it wasn't the candidate that we necessarily wanted. To that viewer's point that started the program, that's one of the reasons maybe that Josh Shapiro, maybe he did trust his gut and say, they tell me she's not a good candidate. Maybe I just waited out and in 4 years, I'm the star. And there's well, there's so many things we can do to talk about this, but some experts are saying if you really look at this was the decisions she made very much echo her 2019 campaign when she ran for president and was out before Iowa, never receiving a single vote, as we've talked about numerous times. So here is twice that she has ran for president and has never received a single vote to be the nominee. But I did find, and we're not trying to, just to be clear, not trying to rub salt in the wound here, just saying the facts. So the experts are suggesting that it was very much a repeat of 2019. Yeah, here it is. And if you wonder what that noise was, it was me looking through my paperwork. Okay. Both started with great promise. Tevi Troy, a presidential historian, told Fox, there's a sense that she's the saver of the new flavor, the next generation for Democrats, and both kind of failed spectacularly. Yes, the 2019, again, her only claim to fame in 2019 was to call her now boss a bigot during a debate. That is her claim to fame. And so I think a lot of Democrats have, and this is a long way to kind of get to your comment here, viewer, but I think there are a lot of Democrats that are in shock, but also thinking the real energy was never there. The idea that it was going to be a vibe campaign didn't really mesh at the end of the day. And let's face it, those vibes at the end, where she started calling Trump a fascist and a Nazi, those vibes changed quickly. And there's a piece that I have that I'm not going to try to search for, but it was actually from CNN where they said by the end of these campaigns, if you want to use the term vibe, the vibe changed and the vibe went towards Trump. And that became crystal clear with the results early yesterday morning, making it official. But both campaigns, again, her 2019 and this campaign, ran around on the same two things. Number one is her ability to communicate even the most simple idea to the American people. And it's not because she's not intellectually capable of doing it. It's because she is in a box. And did I say ability? I'm sorry. Number one is her inability to communicate even the most simple idea to the American people. It's not because she's not intellectually capable of doing it. It's because she's in a box. She's trapped. On the one hand, her inclinations and her voters are on the left. And on the other hand, she wants to win the general election and to appeal to the people in the general election. She has to renounce the more woke policies that she's espoused throughout her whole life. But to do that would cost her excited progressive big donors. Yes, and there was that pushback for her from the non-committed vote. I heard a little bit about that yesterday. Yes, I ended up watching as much coverage yesterday as I think I did the day before, like many of you. But there was the non-committed saying she didn't do a good job speaking to them. I don't think voters felt like abortion rights were at risk, said one GOP strategist. They largely agree that the voters should decide, which was President Trump's message, that it would be sent to the states for voters themselves to decide. I think our biggest strength was Kamala's own words, that she had so many far-left San Francisco liberal policy proposals that were all explained by her on camera during the 2020 campaign, that we were able to deploy really effectively and target into districts where people have really negative views of those issues. And let's face it, at the end of the day, voters wanted more substance. And that was said even by her most ardent supporters, that she wasn't doing a good job speaking to the undecideds, which, again, I think after the election, were there really any undecideds with a victory like that for Trump? But echoing what Bernie Sanders had to say, Chuck Todd was on the Today Show yesterday saying, I remember 4 years ago talking with a few people going, Donald Trump could put together a multi-ethnic working class coalition if he didn't alienate certain voting groups. Well, that part didn't matter. He's put together the multi-ethnic working class coalition, and it's a majority of the country. It's over 50%. And the Democrats allowed themselves, essentially, they accepted the party of elites mantra. They accepted the party of suburban America and walked away from rural America, essentially, and didn't try to get them back. And when you start to look at it, and that seems to be culturally how they lost a group of voters. It was one thing to lose working class whites. Now they're losing working class Hispanics. And if this keeps up, they'll lose working class African Americans. He added that Democrats rely too much on identity politics. And this has been a criticism of them for quite some time. But again, will they have that day of reckoning that we keep mentioning? Meaning, well, they had the day of reckoning on Election Day. But what I mean is taking a time to reflect. I've talked to some friends, and I don't really like to use that kind of anecdotal stuff on the air. Or, I don't want my friends nervous to talk to me about it, so I won't mention names. But they obviously did not vote for Trump. They voted for Harris, saying the party has to realign. They have to open up and really have that conversation that can hurt. The Republican parties was kind of down and dirty. What I mean by that is going back to the idea that, only way we can win is John McCain. We lost. The only way we can win is Mitt Romney. We lost. Well, when the same elites that told us those two things then told us the only way we could beat Hillary Clinton is if we put in Jeb Bush, the Republican Party finally said, no, we're going to do it our way, and that led to the election of Trump. So I think it almost has to be in the people's hands, because I don't believe Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and these people are going to really reshape the Democrat Party to fix their problems. As a matter of fact, there's numerous pieces this morning from various outlets saying that Trump's victory is really the ultimate defeat for Obama's policies. It was the ultimate denouncing of the Obama presidency. And I thought that was a very interesting point because if you look at it, Biden very much obviously he was Obama's VP, but Harris very much entrenched in Obama Democrat policies. But as Henry Olsen, who we quote a few times on this program, he writes for the New York Post very often, he said Donald Trump's dominant election win was only a shock to the smug elites. And if you recall, I mentioned on, I think it was Monday, I think I mentioned his piece where he basically predicted that Donald Trump's going to have an epic win. He said the only thing less surprising than his triumph was the media surprise that happened. With a few exceptions, our self-appointed national elites remain utterly clueless about the nature of the nation they purport to lead. And that is very clear. You saw it in the election night coverage where, what did we get wrong? What didn't we see? Well, when the media, very much so, but the Democratic elites as well, are in a bubble because everybody they know, everybody they work with was going to vote for Harris. So that's why if you watched and that's why I really enjoy flipping around on election night and watching various outlets. But if you watched it, they were presenting it to, and I'm not talking about Fox. If you weren't watching Fox, if you were flipping around, if you were watching, you would think that they were talking to you as a Harris supporter. That, okay, this is what she needs to do to win. It's never what Trump needs to do to win. This is what Harris needs to do to win. And can Harris do this and Harris that? And you really walk back and go, they just assume that their viewership voted for Harris, and they are trying to help that person understand how their vote might put Harris over the edge, or what votes would put Harris over the edge. So it does only come as a shock to the smug elites in this country. As Olsen says, Trump and his vice president-elect J.D. Vance have the opportunity to usher in a fifth great realignment, one that will take the new Republican plurality among voters, the first since 1932, and make it a new American majority. The renewal of the American dream, the restoration of American power, the repairing of our national divide, all of this is possible now because the American people kept the faith with America and rejected the siren song of pedigreed aristocrats on Wall Street and in ivory towers. Hollywood and the legacy media. Freedom, responsibility, equality, opportunity. What a wonderful time to be alive in the greatest country in the world. All right, we have to take a short break. Did I even finish your comment, viewer? Did I hope I read the whole thing. Well, we'll read it right now. I'm glad the election results haven't caused an uprising. I really feel that there is unity in the air brewing. Thank God and country for the calm. I can't remember if I went on with that tangent mid-sentence from you, or I read the whole thing. Thank you for that comment. I see others coming in. Keep them coming in. Enjoying the conversation this morning. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, the portable oxygen concentrator that moves with you.
This little box changed my life. I can now do all those things that I want to do. You just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen portable oxygen systems are small and light and deliver up to 12 hours of medical-grade oxygen on a single charge.
Now that I've got my Inogen, I've got my freedom back. I'm back to living again.
Try an Inogen system free for 14 days.
Call now. Hi, I'm Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. And in our family, we're used to getting involved, and I encourage you to do the same, especially when it comes to caring for your loved ones. When I think about Alzheimer's and the impact it had on my family, I recognize that losing a race isn't such a bad day after all. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
It's a season of Sherry.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Thanks again to Boss Security for bringing us the roof cam. Boss Security, for all your business and home security needs, located in Horseheads. And we're located on historic Market Street in Corning as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know where in the whole wide media world you could have better conversation than we do right here on the program. Thank you for all the comments this morning. We're going to get right back to them. First off, actions speak louder than words. Harris surrounded herself and embraced the elite. Trump filled rallies with working class people and embraced them. Great point. How reminiscent was it of 2016, where Hillary had to have celebrities perform and come to speak to bring the crowds in? And whatever you think of some of the celebrities, I know Taylor Swift endorsing her was going to be the end of the campaign. And I know Beyonce coming, and that backlash with Beyonce coming to a rally and not performing, as the media and others try to portray it as a performance. So you can see when people in the audience are mad that she didn't perform, that was probably the only reason they went to the rally. It wasn't to support Harris. It was they wanted a free concert, right? But it's like what, and I can't remember who said it, but it was such a good point. You know, you see these celebrities and Bruce Springsteen who rallies against the one percenters as he charges, roughly about $300 for a general admission ticket to his concerts. When he's talking about how bad Trump is, you know, who is that really resonating? Let me try that again. Who is that really reaching? Again, it seems so out of touch and elitist. I have op-ed after op-ed this morning that we could get to saying that Harris's embracing of the elites, of the celebrities, actually hurt her in the end. Because if you're out there and you can't even afford a concert ticket to one of these people's concerts, you're struggling so much and you're wondering if you can even get groceries or fill up your gas tank. And here you have today's pop star lecturing you about who's best for you. It's like, I think the protests on college campuses backfired a lot too, because we're being told as taxpayers we have to pay for these elite college students' school loans, even though maybe you couldn't afford to go to college, or maybe you struggle to pay off your debt, or maybe you're still in debt. Those working class people saying, wait a minute, I can't even afford groceries. I can't afford to go see Beyonce in concert. But I'm supposed to give you money for someone else's college. And oh, by the way, when they're on college, they're protesting anti-American protests, anti-Israel protests, anti-police protests. So yes, the embracement of the elite is something I think, I would say the Democrats will face at some point, but I'm not sure. Because if they didn't learn from Hillary Clinton, which was really a disaster and cringeworthy on so many levels, her embrace, I don't know if they're going to learn after Harris's loss that, again, if I'm struggling to pay my bills and to put grocery on my table, I don't need to be lectured by Bruce Springsteen or by the pop star of the day. I can't remember all the people she had around her, Beyonce, about who's best for me as they have their private jets and their stacks of cash. Next comment from a different viewer. Regarding Kamala's racist comments about Joe, yes, during the debate and back in 2019, Harris became kind of an up-and-comer for a blink of an eye from that debate to the next debate by calling her now boss, Joe, essentially a bigot. I think she had apparently forgotten that he was Obama's VP, which made her look silly. That's a fair point. Yeah, it worked temporarily because it knocked Biden, who was kind of a front runner then, down a peg. But that was it, and that was the end of her campaign. Next up, morning, Frank. Hey, good morning. My wife and I found it classless and extremely divisive how Hochul and Attorney General Letitia James spouted hateful rhetoric towards President Trump yesterday. How much hate must exist in their hearts and souls? Unity in New York State remains unattainable. With such individuals in power, it's disgusting. Yes, if you did not see that bizarre press conference, I would also say it's probably never a good idea, no matter who you are, no matter Republican or Democrat, as a governor, to come out and badmouth a president-elect, whoever that president-elect is, to basically lose favor for your state with the president of the United States, the future president of the United States. not a good idea. But again, showing Hochul is not ready for prime time. She thinks she's politically brilliant, and she's proven time and time again she isn't. She wants to have kind of that fame that former Governor Cuomo had. She just doesn't have it. She doesn't have the power moves. She doesn't have the political capital and the political power. So to me, and we're going to talk about it when we come back from break, it was embarrassing. That press conference with our governor and with Letitia James, it shows how out of touch they are with people. And if you look at the numbers in New York and how, yes, of course, Trump lost New York, but making huge inroads. When you look at that, she may be doing herself a disservice. Remember, she did not beat Lee Zeldin by that much. So if you look at some of these numbers, she may want to take a step back from the anti-Trump rhetoric or suggesting that anybody that votes for Trump, that means over 50% of the population, is anti-American and anti-women. She said that, Governor Hochul. And that was before Trump won, but speaks to her character just the same. But we've got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
If you or one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
And we are back looking at historic Market Street. Foggy this morning, by the way. Be careful when you drive into school or you're driving to work. The Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselsen studio. We had a viewer mention the press conference, the bizarre press conference that Governor Hochul gave yesterday with Letitia James. A defiant Hochul announced she formed an Empire State Freedom Initiative to prepare to fight policy and regulatory threats for the incoming Trump administration. She's doing this the day, before Kamala even conceded. She's doing this. Not good to lose favor with the president-elect, in my opinion. I don't think this helps us as a state. But what Hochul did is put her best interests politically first, not the people of her state, with this press conference. She said she'd be prepared to work with Trump, but then spent much of her time talking about readying for political and legal war. She spoke of potential spats with Trump over abortion, labor, LGBTQ rights, environmental policy, and immigration. And James had her normal, I'm going to go after Trump. I'm tough on Trump. Hochul treated Trump's victory, where he won both the Electoral College and the popular vote nationwide, and performed strongly, very impressively, as a matter of fact, in New York State, doing even better than he did in 2020, making inroads. It's very encouraging, as a matter of fact, as a New York State resident, the job that Trump did, especially coming off the heels of Lee Zeldin doing so great against Governor Hochul. But she treated the election like a funeral, essentially. New Yorkers will persevere over the next 4 years. So she's not speaking to those of us in New York that voted for Trump, because she believes you're anti-American and that you're anti-women. She said that, not me. Okay, those are her words, not me. So That's what she thinks of you. And then she has to come on. Again, this is all for, in her mind, this political power, because she wants to be some star, which will never happen. I don't know if she wants to run for president someday, but she just doesn't have it. Watch the press conference. Very awkward speaking style. Really, well, you saw it during the DNC. Kind of embarrassing, if I'm being honest with you. Looked more like a speech that would be given at some type of local, maybe political dinner by, I don't know. I can't even think of a level of candidate running for coroner or something. I don't know. It was not impressive whatsoever, but she wants to be a kingmaker. She wants people to whisper, you should run for president. And it's kind of to the point of being sad because she's so out of touch with what she says and what she does. But Ed Cox, who is the Republican Party chairman, said Hochul is out of her mind. This does not help New Yorkers. It's dumb and bizarre. Hochul is only looking out for number one. She doesn't care about you that voted for Trump. She only cares about her political power, and it's ultimately can harm all residents of New York. And she didn't care because she wanted to be the first out to give a press conference. Representative Elise Stefanik, the House GOP conference chairwoman, said, quote, President Trump performed better in New York than any Republican presidential candidate since Ronald Reagan. Kathy Hochul has the worst approval ratings for any New York governor in history. One of the many reasons why Trump overperformed in New York and across the country was Tish James' desperate witch hunt and weaponization of the New York Attorney General's office and the Manhattan District Attorney to illegally target Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's political opponents. And he soundly defeated them at the ballot box across the country. I was proud to lead the effort in New York State to fight back against their illegal lawfare. Now, Lee Zeldin, who did remarkable against Governor Hochul, slammed Hochul for spreading division and hate. Today should be a day for New York and America to move forward from a hard-fought political campaign. Today could be a great day for Kathy Hochul to reflect on why so many in her party are fleeing their ranks in a historic realignment with the Republican Party. Hochul needs to better understand why most Americans, unlike Hochul, wake up on the day after an election striving for unity instead of division and hate. Whether Kathy Hochul realizes it or not, her partisanship being as toxic the day after an election as it is the day before is why she is so increasingly unpopular with the public, both within her party and with most others. What a great line from Lee, great statement from Lee Zeldin. Governor Hochul is not liked, not even by her own party. This has been said time and time again. So for her to do this, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it when we get back, but for her to do this just shows you how out of touch and how not ready for prime time she really is. So if you saw that, I'd love to hear your comments, but stay with us. Last break of hour number one, hard to believe. And we'll get started with hour number two right here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
There's a reality in healthcare today. People are facing rising costs. At Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're here to make sure no one faces them alone. We are committed to ensuring that healthcare dollars are spent as effectively as possible in ways that improve access and quality of care. With 93 cents of every premium dollar going directly toward caring for our members. So every day, every member, everybody benefits.
Something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
Shell Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. so many great comments, and I cannot thank you enough. This has been happening a lot. Just so many, and I think it has such great conversations, and it gets me moving around on stories, and I love it. Okay. Here's first up. If Hochul is doing so great, why do families continue to flee the state? Great point. The mass exodus year after year, leading the country in the mass exodus. That's why Governor Hochul, for better or for worse, and it is for worse, doesn't care, and she's proven it time and time again, doesn't care about the residents of New York. She cares about her own political power and really her own political stardom. That's what she really craves. There's a need for that. Next up, different comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. Thankfully for the residents of New York State, Trump loves the state and will overlook the barking dogs in the neighborhood like Hochul and James. Yeah, this press conference wasn't on Trump's radar. I mean, yes, he may comment on it, but I mean, this at the end of the day, he's risen above that kind of thing where it will affect New York as much as it could or should, maybe you could even argue, because Hochul is a non-entity. Letitia James is a non-entity. Yes, they tried to go after him in what really helped him win the election with that lawfare. But continuing, this was an interesting statement, and I would love to have you explain a little bit more because I'm not sure I quite understand that. But the MAGA movement has outgrown the man, Trump. The crew that is assembled to govern the states is not about any party. It's about keeping the country strong economy, strong borders, strong in the worldview, and strong in health. I do believe it's outgrown the man in many ways. I mean, that's why so many people keep talking about J.D. Vance being the heir apparent to the MAGA movement, because the MAGA movement is not going away. It obviously resonated with people. But okay, so I think you had a thought-provoking message there. Next up, it'll be interesting if they still try to put Trump in prison. I think the topic will just fade away. What do you think? I agree. If you look at it, Jack Smith is already winding down his case because they're not going to go after a sitting president. So he will not even need to fire Jack Smith like he promised he would. Now that Trump will become president again, DOJ officials see no room to pursue either criminal case against him and no point in continuing to litigate them in the weeks before he takes office, the people said. Sensible, inevitable, and unfortunate, said former federal prosecutor Chuck Rosenberg. Isn't it amazing the moves that Jack Smith tried to make to really ironically, as he brings up election interference cases against Trump, his election interference, which was to release the documents and try to affect the campaign, essentially. So I think it must be very frustrating for someone that was so partisan, but I hope, I don't care if they realize or not, if I'm being honest, but do you think, here's a question for you, do you think they'll realize that this lawfare was a huge mistake? That the lawfare, the attacking Trump supporters with name calling was a mistake? Because those two things, I think, played a major role in why we have why Trump has such a huge electoral college lead and win and popular vote. So your thoughts. Do you think they'll learn their lesson? And just to piggyback off of what that viewer said, there's a piece by Mark Antonio Wright, and I know we have to take a break, but it's Biden should pardon Trump. Do you see that in the cards? For anyone caught up in the idea that such a move by Biden would let Trump off the hook, for one Trump controversy after another, there's no need to worry. There will be other controversies, I promise. So Biden should pardon Trump. And also, do you think Biden will pardon Hunter? I know that Trump has signaled interest in pardoning Hunter, but do you think Biden will and go, now that it's all over, go away from his promise? So there's a couple questions for you as we start hour number 2 after this short break. So much more to talk about. We're just getting started. Full hour left together, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-781-9990 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-781-9990. 1-800-781-9990. Call.
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. So many great comments. Thank you for being a part of the program. Let's get back into it. A couple comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. I have a question about Prop 1. Can you give us a breakdown of where the votes came from by county or district? I am truly shocked and appalled that this demonic proposal was passed. Any information would be appreciated. Thank you. I tried to do some research. I do not have that, but I will do my best to try to get that information for you. I don't know if it'll be broken up by county. I think you know the answer of where the majority of votes came from, and that would be the city. But it did win overwhelmingly, or did pass overwhelmingly, I should say, something like 62%, was 62% of the vote. So I do not have that information for you. If I find it, or if someone passes it along to me, or if a viewer wants to pass it along to me, I will get that to you. Thank you. And if there's any other questions about the election that you may have, if you want me to look up a specific race or a local race or national, please let me know. I could do that very quickly. Next up, is there anything wrong with a statement I heard on a local news station? Oh, I hope it wasn't me. Trump won overwhelmingly in a very divided country. Doesn't seem that we are that divided. Yeah, that's an interesting statement, isn't it? Trump won overwhelmingly, with that term overwhelmingly, in a very divided country. Yes, interesting. Coming in at 295 as of this morning, 295 electoral votes when needing just 270. And then in the popular vote, over 50% of the popular vote. Okay. Just going back quickly to Hochul and James's embarrassing, bizarre press conference, where Lee Zeldin put it so succinctly that at a time when the election is over, where she decides to be just as partisan that day as the day before. I mean, she gave this press conference before Kamala Harris even conceded. So not helping New Yorkers. And that's exactly what Michael Goodwin at the New York Post said, saying, as I watched the tone-deaf, sad sack comments by Governor Hochul and State Attorney General Letitia James, an idea came to mind. Why don't they just go whole hog and say New York is seceding from the Union? And why stop there? Declare a new civil war because, well, Donald Trump is going to be president and we don't want that. And the tears begin and the crying begins. Grow up. There's no crying in politics, he says. I've seen many bad performances by public officials, but Hochul and James hit rock bottom. Wow. And this is a guy that reports on politics in New York State. But he raises a very good point that the reason they're so upset and why it was a funeral is Trump won. After they used lawfare to go against him, they're now saying now they don't like the way that it all played out, do they? They indicate New York is ready and eager to rumble with a new Trump administration. That's what they made perfectly clear. No grace, no patriotism, only the crazy talk assumption that the worst case scenario is inevitable. Their view is so blinkered that they must be getting their fake news from outlets that have a fetish for calling Trump Hitler and warning that he is going to destroy America. By comparison, the concession speech Vice President Harris gave was full of grace and patriotism. And I would love to hear your thoughts on the speech. The final results humiliated her, but she still managed to keep it together for 10 minutes and resist any impulse to flash anger and seek revenge. Of course, Hochul and James also demanded more money from the Trump administration. So first you attack, then say, gimme, gimme. A brilliant, brilliant strategy. It shows you how really out of touch with reality Governor Hochul is, and that kind of ego that her and Letitia James have. And to think of the lawfare that they used against Trump, which ultimately benefited him, if we're going to be serious, if we're going to put our cards on the table, ultimately helped him to have such a landslide victory. But to not see their mistakes and to feel the need to do this and hurt the people of New York day one. Surely Trump will be moved to open the federal purse. Hochul and James are a two-person wrecking crew. They have done nothing for New York except move it even closer to being off the cliff. Business and residents are fleeing their money-grabbing clutches, and they mark the election with this kind of defiance. Yeah, you got to remember, she thinks that if you voted for Trump, half the country is now anti-American and anti-woman. Hochul said her office formed the Freedom Initiative to basically go after any threats, as she said, from Trump. This is what passes for action in Albany. Having aides with time for this partisan nonsense is how the state ends up killing a pet squirrel. Good point. Peanut making an appearance here. Yeah, it's that kind of government overreach that led to Peanut, the death of Peanut. When they appeared together, Hochul spoke first, saying grimly that we have weathered storms before and we will get through this uncertainty of a new administration in Washington. We stand ready to respond to any threats of political violence, she added, apparently imagining herself standing heroically behind a barricade as MAGA hordes descend on the once grand Empire State to steal away abortion rights. Before spewing such nonsense, she might have checked the election turnouts. Some 3.5 million New Yorkers voted for Trump on Tuesday, or 43% of the total turnout. It's still a blue state. We know that. But the GOP is clearly making inroads, and Hochul herself has a close call 2 years ago, had a close call with Lee Zeldin. Now, I don't want to go through the whole speech. I don't like falling into, or the whole opinion piece here. I don't like falling into that, but he had a great point. Cooperation may not suit their politics, but it helps New York, and that's supposed to be their job. But this is another reason why people are leaving in droves. But for Governor Hochul to do that day one shows you how, really, again, out of touch she seriously is. Now back to the kind of the Harris campaign in a way. Yesterday conceding. Frank Luntz from Fox News said she never actually told voters exactly what she would do in her first hour, in the first days, in the first weeks, in the first months. And voters have the right to know that, yes, especially for someone that didn't have primary, didn't have the vetting essentially in the primary. She had the responsibility to tell them. In the end, when she turned on him, Trump, she started to call him all sorts of really horrific things. And in the last week or 10 days, started calling him a fascist. Her negativity started to go up. Her popularity started to go down. And I think that had a significant impact. Yes, the vibe was no longer this joyful, happy vibe, allegedly, like at the beginning. The vibe shifted, as CNN said, shifted to Trump, where Trump had the positive vibe. And don't think for a moment, as much as they hated that Madison Square Garden rally. And again, I think it was not the smartest move in the world to have an insult comic open the thing. Push that one moment, a very small moment in a 6-hour rally. You want to talk about vibes, and we talked about it at the time, as many of us watched it. Those were positive vibes. Those were patriotic vibes. Those were, to steal his phrase, "Make America Great Again" vibes. So the vibes at the end had went, and I hate the fact that we're talking vibes. Don't get me wrong, okay? But it's important to note quickly. The vibes were with him and not with Harris. But that was all she had, was a campaign of vibes and no real substance. And when they keep saying it was only 107 days, that was the whole talking point we've heard over and over again. She only had 107 days. Well, first of all, let's keep in mind she was part of the team to cover up the scandal of Biden's mental decline. She was a part of that. So she's a part of this supposed failure to resign early enough. But I think she realizes I say resign, you know what I mean, to leave the campaign. If he had left the campaign earlier, I think she also knows in her heart of hearts, she probably wouldn't have been the nominee. If there was a primary or even a truncated primary, I don't think she would have been. So I don't think she would have been the nominee. And that's what a lot of people are saying, that he didn't get out early enough, which means there wasn't a primary. And if there was a primary, probably wouldn't have been her. So it's really kind of insulting to her, though I think accurate, that Democrats have embraced that. Because it wasn't, when they keep saying 107 days, it wasn't Harris could have done this if she had a full year. No, it's really saying we could have put somebody else in there. But again, they were the same people that covered up his mental health. So they were the same ones, the Schumers, the Pelosi's, those in the media that are now saying it wasn't fair. She should have had more time. He should have resigned. They were a part of the reasons why he stayed in. Keep that in mind. So that's very, very disingenuous when they say that, in my opinion. Because I don't think they knew exactly what they were doing with covering up his mental health, and now they just don't like the way it all went down. But I got on a tangent again. Apologize. So Frank Luntz wraps up with saying, don't forget, Republicans also gained seats in the Senate. And it looks like they're going to end up in control of the House. We'll talk about that in a moment. This was not just a Donald Trump victory last night. This was a Republican victory, up and down the ticket. And there's going to be some reckoning in Washington in the next weeks and months. Do you think there will be? Do you think they've learned their lesson? I don't. I think as they complain about only having 107 days, I think that's going to be the mindset moving forward, that it wasn't fair, that she never had the chance to get her message out, or it could have been somebody else. But remember, and this is where the tangent kind of started, but remember, she had numerous possible opportunities to give interviews, to do press conferences, and she didn't do it. She didn't get her policies out there because she never really had any policies. It's not as if she was keeping them in her back pocket and just wasn't telling you. She didn't have the policies, and the policies she did have were the same policies she had in 2019. So she didn't want to have to get out there and lie and say, well, no, I've flip-flopped on that, or I've done a 180. So she kept quiet. Now, oh my goodness, so many comments coming in. You know what I heard yesterday? And this is very petty, but I also thought it was kind of clever. Well, I just want to hear your thoughts. Here's what I heard. It was in a comment section on some article I was reading. Someone had said, just out of pure pettiness, they were clearly a Harris supporter, or at least a not Trump person. They said that Biden should resign from the presidency in these last few months, give it to Harris, only for the reason that all the merchandise would have to be thrown out that says Trump 45 and 47. It would have to be Trump 45 and 48. And I've got to say, the person was saying it humorously, was saying it as a joke, but it did kind of make me laugh. But then I started thinking I could see something that ridiculously petty happen. Couldn't you? So having to throw away all that merchandise because no longer accurate. Oh, by the way, Mark Molinaro, we brought you the news that he was defeated in his re-election campaign. Disappointing. He had a tough district. Mark Molinaro, he was a very good, I think, gubernatorial candidate. And I thought he was doing a good enough job in Congress. But he has not conceded, though. I wanted to bring that to your attention. He has not conceded New York's 19th district. He's waiting for the final tally, but he does vow to accept the results. These ballots will decide the race, and we have to be sure every legal vote is counted. Whatever the results end up being, I will accept it, and I'm beyond grateful to my family, friends, and supporters. I'll share updates as more information becomes available. Now, Mike Lawler winning, and he's more moderate. Mike Lawler, Molinaro, you could say that too, but Mike Lawler, moderate, but still a Republican. His win is lifting House Republicans' chances, and if you look right now, the numbers are 191 Democrats. They flipped 2 House seats. But Republicans have flipped, as of this morning, 6 House seats, and they're at 209. To win the House, either Democrats or Republicans need to get to 218. What we're reading is the pathway to Republicans winning the House has become clear. Republicans are the favorites right now to hold power in the House of Representatives and ensure a political trifecta at the start of the next year. Man, can you imagine? Think of that election night. I mean, I'm going to put this out there, and I want people to be honest. I have no reason to believe you wouldn't be. Did you think, beyond your wildest imaginations, that it would be this big of a win? I mean, I'm sure many thought Trump was going to win. I'm sure many thought that we might win the House or we might win the Senate. But did anybody expect the Electoral College win, the popular win, over 50% popularity for Trump, the Senate, and potentially the House going into January? My goodness. I guess there's no way, with all of that being said, that they can say, well, Trump's ideas are out of touch with the American people. But House state of play, Republicans have a more robust path to 218 seats than Democrats. Roughly 15 races left with a decent amount of uncertainty, and the midpoint outcome is pretty close to the current House breakdown of 221 Republicans and 214 Democrats. Political data guru Dave Wasserman said. So there's a couple updates, but we got to take a short break, and then we'll get to your comments. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Stock up for fall and save Save at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines. On 1.75-liter Grey Goose vodka, normally $42.99, on sale for $38.99. Save even more with $5 mail-in rebate. Your final cost $33.99. A 750-milliliter Wagner Dry Riesling, Semi-Dry Riesling, and Riesling Select, normally $12.99, now on sale for $10.99 a bottle. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Are you over 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Call now and get this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers, from a leading financial firm on maximizing your income in retirement. And if you call right now, as a bonus, we'll throw in a free annuity rate report. Don't miss out on this opportunity because supplies are limited. Both books are yours free, just for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-354-5972.
Okay, Dad, look at you.
I look nice, don't I?
I see you.
Yeah.
Adding your own flavor to fashion comes with age.
Let's go.
Oh, man, that's the best one yet.
Forgetting how to add doesn't. Finding it difficult to work with numbers may be a sign of Alzheimer's.
Dad, are you okay?
An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one.
High school. Yeah.
Hey, Dad. Do you want to talk about what happened earlier?
Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's. Some things come with age.
And we are back with Frankly Speaking. Thank you again to Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. They're kind enough to provide us with that beautiful view right there of historic Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Thanks for joining us. We've got so many viewer comments. This has been a great back and forth with comments. Hey, good morning, friend. Well, good morning. It's good to hear from you. And it's so good to hear you speak positively, as we know you would, about the triumphant Trump. Thank you. And we all must... I was so wanting him to take over New York State. Kept thinking, come on, folks, get out there. But anyway, I had a couple yes, listen, we can't diminish, though, how well he did in New York State. Yes, he didn't win, but we're seeing signs, whether it's the closeness that Lee Zeldin got to being governor, whether it's Trump's inroads that he's made. Listen, we all want to win, but it's always, if you're not going to win, it's always nice to be on the right trajectory, right? If you've got a good football team and you say, well, we didn't win the Super Bowl this year, but we've got the makeup of a couple changes and we win the Super Bowl, not a bad place to be. It's not exactly where you want to be, but it's not the bad place to be. Okay. A couple questions. One question about the proposal. Just because it passed in the votes, does that mean that our local representatives, those in our area, can't go to the state and vote it down? No. So it's really weird. An amendment to the New York State Constitution, it had to go through, I think it was 2 sessions of the Assembly. And then when it does, and it passes, then it goes to the voter, and then the voter makes the ultimate decision. So no, I mean, I hate to say it, but what's done is done. And I've got to listen, and thank you for calling in and leaving a voicemail. I've got to listen to the last part of your comment. Right now I'm just reading the transcript, and something made you laugh good, and I got to find out what it is, but I haven't been able to listen yet because of the way our system works, but I will do that later. So thank you. I look forward to it. It's going to be a good one, I'm sure. Next up. Okay, let's do this one first. Now that the Republicans are going to take over, it'll be a test of the Democrat Party's resolve to leave the country steady instead of bringing us into a world war before their power is gone in order to challenge the new administration. Well, it's one thing is it's a very, and this, let me read a different viewer's comments saying, basically saying, do you think that they could pardon, where is it here? I hate to say, I forgot we had so many comments here. I hate to even put this out there. How much pardon power does Biden have? Do you think Biden has the power to pardon the illegals? This is what's going to be interesting, because with such a short amount of time left in the Biden administration, what will be done? I mean, it's very good that the House is still in Republican hands, so some things can be stopped. As to pardon power, I don't have an answer for that. I'm not sure what kind of, there's always talks about lame duck administrations anyway, so this is going to be interesting on what kind of quote unquote, to the viewers' point, damage can be done between now and January 20th on Inauguration Day. But let's continue here, because there are so many comments, and I thank you so much this morning for being so active. Here we go. Frank, Hochul is in competition with James for the next term of governor. They both think if they bash Trump and his constituents enough, the Democrat sheeple in New York City, Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo will elect them for governor in 2026. Not a bad point there, Ken. Interesting that they are both, because there's been talks that there's also been talks that Letitia James may run for mayor of New York City too. But they are kind of somewhat in competition. So for them both to be on that stage, really embarrassing themselves and really doing a major, major disservice for the residents of New York State. So very good point. Next up, Hunter should not be pardoned, this viewer says. He was given a gift when he received an administrative discharge from the Navy. Good point. Because of Joe. Others would have been charged with bad conduct discharged. He should go to trial like everyone else. If it was one of us, we would not get a free pass. That's fair. That's fair. There has been talks of it. Do you think Joe Biden will do it? Do you think Trump, who talked about it, saying he thinks it would be good for the country to pardon him? I don't know if at the end of the day Trump will. But I do think that Biden may, using the excuse of, hey, I'm done. It didn't go well for us. I mean, I don't think anybody, well, I shouldn't say not anybody. I shouldn't use generalities like that. I don't think too many people would hold it against him if he did. Listen, this was disastrous for his legacy on so many fronts. The questioning of his mental health, the coup by his own party they've been loyal to for 50 years. Now they're blaming him on it for the Harris loss. His VP loses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think most people would see him saying, you know what, I'm going to do one last thing, then I'm out of here. And I don't think it'll be one last thing. That's the scary stuff. It's the other stuff. I could see him easily saying, you know what, I'm pardoning my son, even though I said I wouldn't. I hope you understand. I really don't. You know, you'll have the talking heads come out and say it just proves his love for his family and for his son. So I really don't think it would be all that big a deal, but I do think it'll probably happen. Next up, do you think Biden will show up at inauguration? Oh, good point. Let's not just think about Biden. How many presidents do you think will be there? And do you think, well, the vice presidents go, right? I'm trying to think a picture in my mind because I don't see Dick Cheney attending. I don't know if George W. Bush would or not. Will Obama? No, this is a fun one that you sent in. Do you think who do you think will not show up to Trump's inauguration? Will Harris be there for the smooth transition? I think she will because of her speech. You know, they want to be seen as, you know, the smooth transition, but maybe not. I think Biden will, unless there's some underlining factor why he can't. But I think ultimately, yes. Final comment, and we have to take another break already. Final comment from a different viewer, not final comment, but in this section. What happened to all the money Harris has in her war chest? Well, sit down, and because this is going to blow your mind, because it did mine this morning, and I actually meant to start the program. So you asked the question, what happened to all the money Harris has in her war chest? According to Politico, hardly a conservative outlet, according to Politico, Kamala Harris's campaign fell $20 million in debt during the final week of her campaign. This is according to several sources. You're saying, wait a minute, Frank. I thought she raised over $1 billion. How do you get in debt? Because that was my first thought. According to Christopher Cadalgo, the California bureau chief for Politico, he tweeted out that Harris's campaign had ended with at least $20 million in debt. according to two sources familiar with the situation. Quote, Harris raised over $1 billion and had $118 million in the bank as of October the 16th. A campaign staffer confirmed that the reports that Harris's campaign was $20 million in debt is real, adding that Jen O'Malley Dillon, the Harris campaign chair, reportedly blew through $1 billion in a few months. Who do you think got rich off of that? There are some consultants sitting pretty right now. Because how do you go through in 107 days $1 billion? And on October 16th, so less than a month ago, you had $118 million in the bank. All of that, and you blew it and are now $20 million in debt. It shocked me. The concerts, it says here that the Harris campaign held with celebrities such as Katy Perry, Lizzo, Eminem, and Bruce Springsteen were reportedly all Jen's ideas, meaning Jen O'Malley Dillon, the Harris campaign chair, which actually, as we talked about all morning long, the celebrity is not helpful. Jen blew through $1 billion in a few months, and it was all Jen's idea to do all the concerts. As a result of being $20 million in debt, Rob Flaherty, their deputy campaign manager for Harris's campaign, is reportedly, quote, currently shopping around the Kamala fundraising email list to anyone who wants to, quote, try to raise the money back for the campaign. Wow. Honestly, this shocked me. One staffer said that many people didn't like working for O'Malley Dillon. Many people on the campaign felt like we lost because Kamala wasn't allowed to run her campaign. They were running Joe Biden's campaign instead of a Kamala campaign. Obnoxious and very much a gatekeeper and interfering with the vice president's people who were trying to do their job. Lest I hear something else, in order to pay her tab at a station in Tennessee, she had to cut several different checks on the same day. More evidence of cash flow issues. Did she blow it all on Lizzo and Beyonce? Asked one MAGA person. So what happened to all the money Harris has in her war chest? Nothing. They're going to have to fundraise to get more. And these were the people that wanted to be in charge of your money, the tax-paying dollars. Think of that. Not to rub salt in the wound, but think of that. These are the people that wanted to spend your money effectively and efficiently, right? When they had over $1 billion, $118 million in hand on October 16th. And here we are the day after the election, and they have to call and fundraise because they're $20 million in debt. I'll let you take that all in and think about all that while we take our break. Run a little bit late. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs.
If you or one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app. Your teams, your highlights, your scores, Get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
Stream your teams live. It's free with your pay TV subscription. Grab your Fox Sports app today.
The Bix website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
And we are back. Thanks again to Boss Security for bringing us the roof cam. Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. And I honestly don't think I even needed to do show prep this morning because we are receiving such great comments throughout the whole program. So let's get to it before I have to take another break. Here we go. First comment from a viewer. Oh, I apologize to this viewer who keeps being late for work to call into my program. I don't want to get into any kind of trouble. But I think that Harris's attitude and everything that she told women about under the guise of abortion, which, again, and you raise a good point in this, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but you raise such a good point that abortion was given to the states. It's not going anywhere. I don't think, and you've seen some of these looks into the campaign so far, and some asked, was that the right topic to focus on laser-like? So yes, again, there's going to be a lot of people that look back at this campaign saying where did it get wrong. A lot of great comments about the Harris campaign being $20 million in debt. I know. But first off, good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. The current administration will spend the next 2 months putting resistance workers in positions throughout the federal government and burning through as much Green New Deal cash as possible. That's a good point. They're going to want to spend that best as they can. Any kind of monies that they have on hand, hence look at their campaign. But I think, yeah, you'll have some bureaucrats that will be put in to speak on, be the whistleblower or to try to jam the president and the Republicans up. I would agree. And Fred continues with, remember the good old days when the Clinton transition removed the W key from the keyboards on the way out? Yes, that pettiness is still talked about to this day. That's why I said it jokingly, but the person that suggested that Biden step aside, let Harris be president for the last couple months only so all of Trump's merchandise will have to be thrown out that says 45 and 47 on it because she would be 47, he'd be 48. Nothing would surprise me in today's political climate. Next up. Hi, Frank. Oh, hey, what's going on? I like the baby hippo. Let me reword that. Because I like the baby hippo too, but that's not what you were saying. I, like the baby hippo, had every confidence that Trump would win. By how much could not have been imagined until after the fact. But I have to say that since both myself and the hippo have a 100% predictive record, each of us with a record of 1 for 1. However, that guy who claimed he had correctly predicted presidential elections in 10 of 11, now 12 calls, has a worse record and should give up. I agree. Did you see his meltdown, by the way? His name escapes me, but he's this Nostradamus of predicting because he has, 13 things that have to line up, and if they do, the one with the most that line up is going to win. Well, you could tell he was maybe not betting with his head, but was betting with his heart, because him and his son had what all you could call it would be a breakdown because they were watching results. I guess, I don't know if he's famous enough for this, but he must think he is, because people were watching his coverage on, I don't know, his Facebook page or some social media page. So he's watching the results come in, and you can see the breakdown really going, what is going on? It starts comparing Trump to Hitler and these type of things. So he had a breakdown, and yes, am I impressed when these cookie polls, because those would have been right too. The people that sold the cookies with Trump's likeness and Harris's likeness, they had Trump as well. Those one I find fun. But when you have quote unquote experts saying they're the ones that predict it right all the time, except for 2020 and 2004, but except for those, you start to say, well, that's not that impressive, right? So yes, you have a much more impressive record, and I would take your word over his any day of the week. Next up, doesn't that sound like a Democrat on debt? Who pays that back? Democrats are great at spending money and running up the debt. They sure are. And that's in reference to Harris being $20 million in debt with her campaign. Remarkable. After how much money she raised. Who has to pay that? They've got to essentially try to fundraise it. And there'll probably be a lot of people in the end that kind of get hurt. And don't worry, it's not going to be any of the consultants. It's not going to be any of the people that are making money off the campaign. It's going to be the kind of outlier vendors that don't get their sign money or their commercial money. No, commercials have to be paid for up front as a rule. But, the person that printed the signs for them or the buttons, it'll be the little guy that suffers in that scenario. But they're going to try to fundraise. Imagine making that call. Imagine being that being your job. Hey, remember how you just gave $5 million to a failing campaign, a really, really bad campaign that was run frustratingly bad? Yeah, remember that? Can we have another $5 million because we racked up more debt? I would not. That's when you lead to a telemarketer. You hire a company to do that. Next up. Oh, come on. I'm sure people just lined pockets knowing she would lose. Even if they didn't know she was going to lose, let's say their motives were legitimate, working for a campaign. There's a lot of people, when you have $1 billion, that you've raised over $1 billion in 107 days, and you spent so much that you are now $20 million in debt. That's according to Politico. This is not some conservative outlet. This is according to Politico. There's some people that made some money. I would tend to agree. $20 million in debt, this viewer says. If that's true, thank God she didn't have control of taxpayer money. As I was typing it, because I beat you to the punch, because I said the same thing. Yeah, thank goodness. Well, let's face it. Think of how her and Biden have spent money in the last 4 years. So she already did have the checkbook, the American taxpayer checkbook, and has already shown what she would do. This is just mind-boggling. Next up. She blew through all that money because politicians use money like our tax dollars. It's not an open bank account. I agree. Obviously, the Democrats are not real good at handling money, said one viewer. Personal enrichment will be found if they bother to look. Proof that their DEI policies don't work in the real world. Thank you, Fred. So many great comments, but we got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Enter brand new kitchen appliance that does all the work for you. A hassle-free solution that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it in one pot that you can set, then forget about, and come back to delicious, perfectly prepared meals that cook up to 60% faster without having to do a thing, except enjoy a little extra free time. From the trusted brand Power Excel, there's the StirMax Multi-Cooker, the revolutionary new countertop appliance with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your favorite ingredients and walking away. No more stirring food. StirMax is the one-pot solution that does everything for you. The secret is the unique pot shape and groundbreaking StirMax technology that's automatically programmed to rotate the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise to help prevent jams and food from burning while infusing flavor. Powerful enough to even shred food. With large 7.5 quart capacity and lightweight, attractive design, the entire pan goes right to the table. StirMax features 9 different cooking functions: saute, slow cook, cook stews or soups, keep warm, steam and boil, cook risotto or rice. Plus, the multi-step smart presets, StirMax or BraiseMax, that sears and sautés food before automatically switching to simmer. With premium ceramic coating that's BPA, PFOA, and PTFE free, scratch-proof, and won't ever stick. Then the entire pan goes right into the dishwasher. Now, you can try the Power Excel StirMax Multi-Cooker with tempered glass lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. But it gets even better. You also get the entire bonus package absolutely free. You get the steamer and rice basket. For fresh, healthy meals, the StirMax serving spoon and ladle. It snaps right on top of your StirMax, plus $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order next business day, absolutely free. Plus, every StirMax comes with a 1-year ironclad VIP protection plan and a 90-day money-back guarantee. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so
and did it quickly. And boy, this is going to be tough. This is detrimental to Trump. And she gets $20 million more in debt. So a comment from a viewer. Regarding the debt, typical Democrat, spend, and worry about how to pay for it later. Yeah. Kind of fitting a Democrat stereotype there. I would agree. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for that. Thank you for the person who warned me that the music was playing long. But like I was saying, that I too am on the same page as as everyone watching. It sounds like that the $20 million in debt from Harris's campaign, $20 million in debt. And we just kept talking about it at the time. Oh, she got another big check, and oh, she's breaking $1 billion quickly. And remember that was part of her whole momentum and that vibe at the beginning, because the fundraisers withheld money from Biden. The big money, I should say, withheld money from Biden to make it look like he wasn't going to win. So they, of course, ousted him. They put Harris in, and then the floodgates unleashed with that money. So it showed that she had quote unquote momentum in their minds. That's how the media could portray it. And to think that was over $1 billion wasn't enough. So here from a viewer, regarding the debt, typical Democrat, spend, and worry about how to pay for it later. Thank you very much. Next up, think about the waste Elon Musk is about to find out. When he does, that would be someone that would deserve to be prosecuted for waste and abuse. He would go to jail if he can't pay back some of those debts. We would go to jail if we can't pay some of those debts. Yeah, exactly. And don't think for a moment the consultants and those in the media, of course, too, they're going to be getting their money from that. The $20 million in debt is going to be the little guy, the vendor that doesn't get paid, unfortunately. Now, they are trying to fundraise to get that money, but that's an insulting call to make. I just gave you $5 million, and you guys blew through more. Or I just gave you $10 million. Yeah, good luck. Next up, a couple quick things. And again, thank you for that comment about the music, so that is now corrected. Mike Johnson, and I would love to hear your opinion on this. Mike Johnson is asking his House colleagues to reelect him to the speakership post, because it looks as if Republicans, or at least they're on, it's a narrow path, but they're on a path in a better position than Democrats to take back the House. Would you like to see Mike Johnson in there? I will say, well, let me tell you what Johnson had to say. The American people have shown by their votes that they are ready to turn from the misery of the past 4 years and embark on brighter, bolder path that is marked not by big government, bureaucratic control, poverty, inflation, and wokeness, but by liberty, security, strength, prosperity, and opportunity. I'm ready to take the field with all of you, and I am humbly asking for your support to continue leading this conference as your speaker. It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve with you thus far, and I look forward to playing the biggest offense of our lives. I like him being in there. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think he proved how good he is during the campaign, going on the Sunday broadcasts and really giving it to the host the way they were trying to give it to him. I've been very, and I know Trump has echoed this statement too, I have been very impressed with Mike Johnson. So what are your thoughts? Would you like to see Mike Johnson back in there if that is to be the case, or would you like someone new? Now, Kamala Harris, this was supposed to be the beginning of the show, this stuff I'm going through here, and here we're almost out of time. I'm having so much fun with these conversations. People running late for work. Again, I apologize to that viewer. Kamala Harris vows to fight on as the sobbing crowd boos when Donald Trump's name is mentioned. It's a 12-minute concession speech. I thought it was all right. I mean, I think your point, I think it was Ken who wrote in, I think your point, the fight rhetoric has never been my cup of tea. I think if the shoe was on the other foot, and I know Trump says fight, but that's in reference, of course, to the assassination attempt. But her campaign motto of when we fight, we win, I don't know, just always seemed wrong-headed to me at a time when we had a former president running for re-election, or running to be our president again, who had 2 assassination attempts on his life. It just always seemed the unnecessary rhetoric. Teary-eyed Nancy Pelosi. Now we're not partisan here, so don't celebrate this. This is just me passing on the news. Teary-eyed Nancy Pelosi arrived to see Kamala Harris concede presidential race at Howard University. Just because I find that headline fascinating, I'm going to read it again. Teary-eyed Nancy Pelosi arrives to see Kamala Harris concede presidential race at Howard University. I asked the question, did you ever think that Trump would win by as much as he did in the House, potentially the House, and then obviously the Senate? Did you ever, I know you maybe wished it, but did you ever think you would hear that statement? Teary-eyed Nancy Pelosi arrives to see Kamala Harris concede presidential race. If I would have read that 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, what would your reaction have been? You would have said, "Oh, come on. Don't jinx it, Frank." Tim Walz thanks Kamala Harris for putting your faith in me. Well, it sounds like a lot of people are not putting their faith in Mr. Walz now, Governor Walz. Many people putting the blame specifically on him. People are wondering tonight what would have happened had Shapiro been on the ticket, and not only in terms of Pennsylvania. This is a supporter of Harris. Shapiro would have signaled to the American people that she's not the San Francisco liberal that Trump said she was. But she went with someone actually to her left in the eyes of the American people. Walz was a governor who oversaw the protests. Good point. And, of course, he lied about his background. So many things came up. He was such an anchor in a way around her campaign. But she made the decision for whatever reason. And as the one viewer said, perhaps it was because Shapiro didn't want to be a part of it, seeing the writing on the wall. There's something to be said there. Interesting. But we got to take a short break. Keep those comments coming in. We've got, man, this show's almost over. It's hard to believe. Keep the comments coming in. What do you think about Mike Johnson? One more time, what do you think of the headline? Teary-eyed Nancy Pelosi arrives to see Kamala Harris concede presidential race at Howard University. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Now you leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, the portable oxygen concentrator that moves with you.
This little box changed my life. I can now do all those things that I want to do. You just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen portable oxygen systems are small and light and deliver up to 12 hours of medical-grade oxygen on a single charge.
Now that I've got my Inogen, I've got my freedom back. I'm back to living again.
Try an Inogen system free for 14 days.
Call now.
Our water's better tasting, it's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Enter brand new kitchen appliance that does all the work for you. A hassle-free solution that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it in one pot that you can set, then forget about, and come back to delicious, perfectly prepared meals that cook up to 60% faster without having to do a thing, except enjoy a little extra free time. From the trusted brand Power Excel, there's the StirMax Multi-Cooker, the revolutionary new countertop appliance with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your favorite ingredients and walking away. No more stirring food. StirMax is the one-pot solution that does everything for you. The secret is the unique pot shape and groundbreaking StirMax technology that's automatically programmed to rotate the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise to help prevent jams and food from burning while infusing flavor. Powerful enough to even shred food. With large 7.5 quart capacity and lightweight, attractive design, the entire pan goes right to the table. StirMax features 9 different cooking functions: saute, slow cook, cook stews or soups, keep warm, steam and boil, cook risotto or rice, Plus, the multi-step smart presets, Stir Max or Braise Max, that sears and sautés food before automatically switching to simmer. With premium ceramic coating that's BPA, PFOA, and PTFE free, scratch-proof, and won't ever stick. Then the entire pan goes right into the dishwasher. Now, you can try the Power XL Sturmax multi-cooker with tempered glass lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. But it gets even better. You also get the entire bonus package absolutely free. You get the steamer and rice basket. For fresh, healthy meals, the Sturmax serving spoon and ladle. It snaps right on top of your Sturmax, plus $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order next business day absolutely free. Plus, every Sturmax comes with a 1-year ironclad VIP protection plan and a 90-day money-back guarantee. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so
Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Our beautiful view of historic Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you again, everybody joining us this morning. So many wonderful comments. I thought Mike Johnson was at 1 or 2 Trump rallies, said one viewer. Oh, he was at quite a few Trump rallies. He was up on the stage, of course, election night as well. He was a great campaigner for Trump, in my opinion. That's why I think Trump has been singing his praises, saying on election night when he gave his victory speech, saying he thinks that Speaker Johnson's doing a great job. Now, this conversation is just being had because there's speculation that Republicans could end up winning the House. So it's a little preemptive here, but just asking the question because I know at some points in the early days, there were some people that did not like him. I feel like he got his sea legs and has been doing a pretty effective job, and especially if we got the House and the Senate and the White House. If Republicans have the White House, the House, and the Senate, I think he's going to do a real good job. Next up, after suffering 4 years under a failed administration, yes, I kind of expected the results we got. Good to see people are waking up. And yes, Mike Johnson should stay and continue his work managing the party in the House. Yep, I think he's done a good job of controlling the party a little bit better. And this has nothing to say about Kevin McCarthy. I liked Kevin McCarthy, but what's done is done there. That's when Republicans were really in a mess. We don't need to think back to that. Okay, next up, another comment. Listened to Kamala's farewell speech. And what stuck out, is she mentioned God one time. And I don't remember her mentioning God during her whole campaign. But then she talked about fighting on. It was just odd. It was a little odd. I understand. I mean, I don't think it was necessarily a bad speech, especially considering we've seen some pretty interesting stuff from her. I understand. I never liked the fight rhetoric. I have so many comments coming in, and we have less than 10 minutes together. Look at all these great comments. And I normally don't like doing this live on the air, looking at the comments, because I like to read them ahead of time. But you know what? I don't want to miss any today because we've had such great conversations, and it's been such thought-provoking stuff. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. I missed the first hour. Oh, we have other people missing work to watch the whole show. Come on, set that alarm. I'm just kidding. I understand. Did everybody catch up? Speaking of that jokingly, did everybody catch up from watching TV all last night, pulling an all-nighter? I think pulling an all-nighter in college was a lot easier than it was last night, or 2 nights ago, but I caught up a little bit. Did you? But this is what the viewer had to say. I'll catch up when I view it later. Oh, okay, so you're going to watch anyway. Thank you. But the passing of Prop 1 has me seriously concerned. Can this be reversed or repealed in the Trump administration? Do you know? Thanks. Here's the... I'm going to tell you my gut, and then I'm going to tell you that my gut might be wrong. I think I think how they did it was very wrong. It was very deceptive, very misleading because they did not put the full prop on the ballot. It was not even a condensed version. It was completely misrepresenting what it was. But because it was voted on by the people and it had already went through 2 sessions in Albany, I think what's done is done. It doesn't mean we can't fight back and maybe hope to get another amendment. But I think it's going to be a long process. Having said that, I could very well be wrong. And that's why I'm going to invite our friend, former congressman and now current Assemblyman-elect Joe Sempolinski, which is not normally how titles go, but that's Joe's wild adventure. We'll have Joe on the program and ask him if anything can be done about it. And next time we have Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, the same. So rest assured, I understand your concerns Very much so. I think we're all feeling that way about Proposition 1. It's funny. I had people say that they were heartbroken over it. And it's funny when you think of how the elections went and how so many people should be celebrating in the streets. And yet, rightfully so, a little bit of them are depressed about Prop 1, and I totally get it. But if I find out more, you'll be the first to know. So thank you for that question. Next up, your roof cam says that you're on the sunny side of the street. A great place to be in more ways than one. I agree. We are always on the sunny side of the street here on Frankly Speaking. And thank you for mentioning that and having the roof cam. We're glad the roof cam is back, and that's why we're so happy that Boss Security is part of the program. Okay, next up, we got to go quickly. Joe Biden, I announced this earlier, is going to hold an address to the nation this morning. It's going to start at 11 a.m. Trump yesterday did acknowledge Harris's strength, professionalism, and tenacity during their conversation that they had when she called to concede. Oh, Chuck Schumer released his first statement since losing the majority. As we await the final tallies in elections across the country, Senate Democrats remain committed to our values and to working with our Republican colleagues to deliver for the American people. As I've said time and again, in both the majority and the minority, the only way to get things done in the Senate is through bipartisan legislation while maintaining our principles, and the next 2 years will be no different. Kind of a little different attitude than maybe the day before. As a matter of fact, you remember this name? Zephyr Teachout. We're going to run late. Zephyr Teachout ran for governor at one point. She said in this opinion piece on, where was it? The Nation. Chuck Schumer should resign. Democrats never learned the lessons of Trump's successes on tariffs and trade. Now the party's leaders must take responsibility for their failures to embrace economic populism. Very similar, echoing the statement that Bernie Sanders made. The day is dark. The forces arrayed are tenacious. But as the late Nation editorial board member Toni Morrison wrote, "No, this is precisely the time when artists go to work. There's no time for despair, no place for self-pity, no need for silence, no room for fear. We speak, we write, we do language. This is how civilizations heal." Okay. Chuck Schumer should resign. Trump looks forward to meeting with Biden at the White House. Oh, yeah, buckle in. We're going through a lot of stories. Obama says election's not the outcome we had hoped for, but did offer congratulations to Trump. But that's interesting because Michael Lind has a piece this morning. Trump remade the GOP in his own image to reject Obama's overhauled Democrats. Or as the New York Post editorial board put it, Trump and America bury the Obama doctrine. Interesting. Oh, boy, I'm out of time. I can't run late. Folks, I think we had a great show this morning like we do every morning. And I can't thank you enough for being such an important part of it. I think we could have just read comments all morning long, and that is fun. I love that you can be a part of it, and I hope that you'll join us every weekday morning, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already, the Friday edition of Frankly Speaking. We're going to have a lot to cover, and one of those things will be Biden's address at 11. So join us tomorrow morning at 6 for Frankly Speaking. Have a great day, everyone.